it's something that's very underutilized. So basically what I want to do is start with getting to know you guys a little bit better. And so if you wouldn't mind just in the chat box, introducing yourself, giving us your name and where you served. And also if you can just, give us this little brief snippet into where are you in your job search? And what I mean by that is, are you still in the process of trying to figure out what you want to do? Do you know what you want to do, but you're not sure where, like which organizations you want to work for, what industry you want to be in? Or are you at a place where you know what you want to do and you know where you want to work and you're currently applying for jobs? And the reason why it's important for us to start with that is because the whole networking and informational interviewing process is going to change depending on where you are in your job search. So as people start entering that information in, I'm just going to say just a few things about myself. And so I was an RPCV in South Africa and came back, I think it was 2009. And basically my goal was to get into international development. And so as I continued, I got my doctorate in management with an intention of staying in the international development field. And then I realized that what I really was most passionate about doing was helping people find the jobs that they want where they can really make a difference. And so then I basically did a radical career shift to become a career coach, really specializing people in the social impact fields like international development. I've worked with teachers, I've worked with researchers, but really the RPCV world is, it's my home, and I am just very honored to be able to share some of the resources that I've found to kind of help make your job search experience hopefully a lot easier than mine was. Mine wasn't a whole lot of fun when I got back. And I know a lot of other people, especially those who, right now it's a really tough time to be in the job search. And so that's why I really want us to focus on how are we going to do this right now when a lot of people are in lockdown or just coming out. And again, for the people who have been evacuated, then there's been this radical shift and kind of a stripping of gears of where you thought your life was going and where things are now. And so this webinar, I really see this as a twofer in a way, because I want us to walk away with understanding really highly effective ways of networking and informational interviewing, especially right now when we have to do it virtually, but also learning tips and tricks in LinkedIn. LinkedIn is one of the, like I said, one of the best people and organizational databases that exist. And just about everything that you need from it, you can do it for free. And so I want to share that with you today. So, Jody, it looks like you might be muted and trying to say something.
Hello, Rhonda. I just wanted to remind folks, as I put in the chat box, we are recording this session. We just always want to announce that up front. So thank you so much.
Yes, yes. And the reason we're recording this is so that everybody who registered will get a copy of the recording or will get a link to it, because I'm going to be demoing how to use LinkedIn. It's going to be fast and furious. And so you don't have to take a ton of notes. You'll be able to review it later at your leisure. And so back to this whole concept of networking. This has always been the most effective way of getting a job, is through the people that you know. And the challenge is that our network doesn't always have connections to the jobs that we want. So if we want to find work in other areas, we often have to expand our network. And so a lot of people find that challenging because we've got certain conceptions of what networking is, that it is asking for jobs or favors, that it is passing out business cards, that it is selling yourself. And so one of the things that I think is really important is that we want to view this as looking for partners and building community rather than asking for favors. And that right now, one of the things that a lot of my clients have been finding is that people are a lot more open to virtual networking than they have been in the past, because we're a little void of our normal ways of socializing. And in addition, there has been a huge sense of kind of not only like feeling stuck and not able to do the things that we're used to doing, but also a sense of helplessness, that living during a time of pandemic, there's not a whole lot that an individual can do. However, being able to, for example, for myself, to be able to share my areas of expertise gives me a sense of I'm making a contribution in a way that hopefully is going to make someone's life better. So that's one of the things that I think is really useful right now, is to realize that by you asking for help and support and guidance, you're actually giving yourself, you're giving someone else the opportunity to feel like they're making a contribution. So for some reason, my slide skipped a little bit. So that's basically what I want to say, is that now is the perfect time to reach out and ask for help. And so what we're going to do, one of the things that I want you to kind of walk forward with in this, is to obviously be respectful, be appreciative of people's times. These are ways that you build community and build partnerships, and be strategic. And so the respect and the appreciation, that's all on you. The strategy, that's what we're going to be talking about here. So there will be a chance at the end to ask questions. Jody, as she mentioned, she's going to be monitoring. So if something's not clear, then please write it in the chat box. I'm not going to be paying a lot of attention to the chat box because I get very easily distracted. But if there's something where Jody sees, all right, this is something that's got to be addressed, then she's going to step in. And so please feel free to ask questions as they come up. All right, so what we're doing here is setting you up for success, not only in networking, but actually in getting the kind of job that you want. And so in order to do that, there's a few questions that you need to ask yourself. And the first one is, what do you need to know? And this will help you organize the conversations that you have with people. And it makes it much easier for them to help you when you know what kind of information that you need. And so just going in and saying, I need some advice on getting a job is not as useful as, I'm thinking about becoming a program manager at Chemonics. Do you have some ideas of what would help me be successful in doing that? Then anyone who's got any experience working at Chemonics would be able to say, here are the things that they're looking for. So spending time figuring out what you need to know is going to help tremendously. Then you also want to be able to talk about yourself in a way that, again, helps people effectively help you. And so again, that would be able to know what some of your strengths are, what some of your questions are, what do you enjoy doing, what kind of contributions do you want to make. So Another way of looking at this is often framed as like the elevator pitch or the elevator speech of, just 2 or 3 sentences to describe who you are. But it's not so much to get a job as it is to help someone understand what you're looking for and where you're going to be successful so that they can help you do that. Once you've figured that out, then spending some time understanding what kind of people are going to best answer your questions and help you, how to approach them, and then how do you plan for successfully networking? How do you follow up? How do you make that initial outreach? All of these things, if you put a little bit of time and effort into thinking about this ahead of time, will make this process so much easier. So I just want to very briefly go over LinkedIn and how I encourage you to think about it and use it. And so basically create an account, you're able to set up a profile. And so what we want for your profile is something that really humanizes you. So you can use LinkedIn like a resume where you put in your jobs and schools and all that kind of stuff and your accomplishments and responsibilities, but it also allows you to put in a picture. It also allows you to have a little summary that can be less formal than a resume. And so the more you can make yourself, I want to say like be a human being, but it's more than that, show your personality, show who you are. That's one of the benefits of LinkedIn that you can't get through other mediums. The other thing I want you to think about is for you to set yourself up for the work that you want to do. So often if you just put in your past experience and what you most recently did is what people are going to expect you to want to continue doing. So if you're doing a career shift, then that can keep you from getting the kinds of connections that you want. So be aware of what you're looking for and then make sure that your LinkedIn profile helps set you up for that. And the other thing is that it doesn't need to be perfect. That to use it to identify people and to conduct research, you basically need a basic profile. It doesn't need to be super duper fancy. So you don't need to spend a ton of time on it to get started, and then you can refine it as you go along. So it's useful to connect. The more people you're connected with, the more results you're going to get. And so obviously start with the people that you know, accept invitations that you get. And I also recommend that you don't connect with everybody that you see on there, that having some kind of real life connection is really useful. And what we're going to use it for today is how to identify people that you actually want to talk to. Not just people that you want to be connected with on LinkedIn, but to have conversations with that they can help you. So the other thing that I want to talk about is a part of MPCA's offerings to evacuated Peace Corps volunteers is access to My Career Design Studio. And so I talked about this quite a lot last month. And so I'm going to go over this really super briefly. But if you want to know more about it, you can watch last month's webinar, or you can just sign up. And you'll get access to that with our follow-up email. And so one of the things that My Career Design Studio helps you to do is identify possible jobs that might be a good fit for you, identify questions that you have, and planning for these kind of informational interviews. So My Career Design Studio uses slightly different words. So instead of informational interviews, it's about building partnerships and partnership building conversations. And there's also activities in there on how to, that will remind you of the LinkedIn strategies that we're talking about here. Okay, so let's get into the actual show and tell component here. And so for the people who are in the phase of trying to figure out what you want to do, I want you to, and I'm going to switch over and start reading the chat. So, so put in the chat box the types of jobs you're thinking about, and a question that you want answered. So again, these are the people who don't know exactly what they want to do. And okay, so oh, Nora, thank you so much. I'm glad that you find My Career Design Studio useful. And so My Career Design Studio is a separate program, and you'll get a link for 3 free months with your membership, with your Global Reentry membership. I'll talk more about that at the end. But in the meantime, if there's anybody who wants to be used as a case study, then please feel free to just give me a couple of examples. So we've got community development of the type of work that you want to do. All right, so let me go from my slides to LinkedIn. Okay, so what I am going to do, so we've got social work, community development, project management, international relations, public health, global health, Peace Corps, international education. Okay, this is great. So I'm going to go a little bit broad here, but in a way that I think it's going to cover quite a few of these, and just search for international development. And so you go to LinkedIn, you go to the search bar, you go to international development, and then I want you, development, it always helps when I spell things correctly. And then I want you to go to the in people, and I'll tell you why. So instead of jobs or organizations, so when you search for people, you have this really amazing filter section here, which helps you to narrow things down by location, current companies, connections, or what we want to talk about here, past companies. So let's put in Peace Corps. And what that will do will give you basically all the RPCVs who are working in international development, or who have international development in their profile. And so 36,000 people, maybe not all of them are RPCVs. Some of them might have worked for Peace Corps instead of as a volunteer, but a majority of these people you already have a connection to, even if you don't know them personally. And so basically, this gives you an idea of what they're doing as well as where they're working. And so we've got someone at the College of Education at Florida State, USAID, Population Services International. So this is a really good way to start to identify people that you might want to talk to. So here is LinkedIn tip number 1. And that is, for every profile that you click on directly from a search, LinkedIn keeps track of. And if you do too many of them, they will cut you off unless you pay to upgrade to premium. And so I understand why LinkedIn does that. And if premium is something that you can afford, then it's not a bad thing to do. But for what it gives you, there's almost always a workaround. And so one of the things that's really interesting is that if you click on them directly, it counts. However, if you right click on the link, oops, that is not what I meant to do. Right click, I'm using a Mac. So if it's right click or it is click and hold. Let's try this again. So right click or click and hold. And if you copy link location, and then open up a new tab and paste that in there, then you are able to take a look at Abby's profile without it counting toward your search results. And so again, this is just one of the other thing too, is that if you, not Abby, Amy, you could also put the name in the search box, Amy Van, and I didn't quite see it, Vanderveen. And for some reason, if you search for someone that way, that doesn't count either. So again, looking at people's profiles is really super useful, not only to learn about where they worked, but also sometimes you get really great information reading their summary, and then you can decide whether or not you want to connect with them. So Jody, do you?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, that is wonderful. I just learned a little tip there, that whole right click and then it won't count toward your numbers. That's brilliant. And that actually, in my mind, gets around most all of the reason that you would even consider paying for premium. And it's not cheap. It's, I don't know per month what it is offhand, but it's something like, is it 30 or 40? It's not cheap. It's not like Netflix or something that's really inexpensive. Is it more higher than 30? Or it's that? Okay. Yeah. Great. So it's 30. That's a lot of money for especially for an RPCV when you're first coming back, especially when, you know, you're in the situation that many of you are in, you know, having been, you know, evacuated and such. So I'm totally going to, you know, share that little tip with my clients. And I've been doing this for a long time, and that's a new one for me, that it won't count toward that. That's brilliant. So note to self. Thank you.
My pleasure. Yeah, I know. It's and it's one of those things that people forget to do this, and people get very super duper excited about like all the different people that they can look up on LinkedIn, and then they get cut off. And so it's always useful to have these workarounds.
And you do also have that month. You can do a free trial for a month. And so one of the tips that I've given to people in the past is, you know, if you have a lot of time on your hands, many do at this point, right? And you really want to, you know, work it, you could do that 1 month free trial, and it gives you the extra bonus features that are fine. But it's really the people who usually pay for it are like recruiters, because they get some recruiter types of, I don't know, it's certain windows and things like that are helpful to them in recruiting. But if you wanted to do it for a month and just really do as much of your searching then, so that you get the information you need, and then remember to cut it off, because you're required, I think, to put your credit card in. And if you forget, they're going to start charging you, and you don't want that. So
yep. And especially if you say that you want to go year by year, then they'll charge you like $300. So so the other thing that that premium gives you, that I'm going to give you a workaround for, is that it allows you to in-mail. So use LinkedIn's emailing function for anybody, not just your connections. However, you can also do that if you are a member of the same group. And so how you find the groups is you go all the way to the end. This is why we're recording this, because there's many clicks here. So if you click see all, then you see, okay, they're following companies, groups, and schools. If you go to groups, then you'll see the different groups that this person is a member of. And so I believe that I am a member of both the RPCV and Society for International Development. So we'll see if I know what groups I'm in. And so yes, I am a member of Society for International Development. And one of the things, wait, no, it's not true. Sorry, there are like all these windows up here. So if you see all, then you can search. So if you find someone that you want to connect with, so if we want to connect with Amy, who said that she was a member of this, Then, and I don't see her name, but anyways, you get the idea. All the Amy's are going to show up. And then because I am also a member of this group, I can just message her directly. And so again, these are really the two main reasons why people pay for premium, is to look at people's profiles unlimited and to email them directly. And so not everyone's a member of a group, so this doesn't work for everybody, but it really is a super useful function, and especially if you're a member of a group with over 20,000 members. And so this is one reason to join groups. In the past, I think groups were used a lot more to ask questions about career development. I haven't seen that as much lately. It seems to be a lot of kind of advertisements for webinars and products and job postings. But at the same time, joining groups is still really useful for this reason. Okay, so again, for people who are trying to understand what you want to do, having an idea of who's doing something similar, and then doing some research and finding them in LinkedIn, and again, either copying their name or that link and then looking at their profile a little bit later, that is one of the ways that you can identify people to reach out to. So now we are going back, and I have to talk myself through this because Zoom is a little strange. But so what I want to next talk about is how to find organizations for that you might want to work for. And so I am going to go back to the chats. And what I want to ask now, for people who know what you want to do, tell me where you want to work. So that might be where you're living now. It might be someplace that you want to move to, but just give me some idea. So basically what I want to know is a job title that you're seeking and where it is that you want to work. And then I'm going to show you a couple of other things in LinkedIn. So, okay, want to work in Quebec, but not sure what you want to do. Program director in New York City, NGOs and community health education, case manager in Atlanta, project manager in Switzerland, Department of State. Okay. So what I am going to do is take the last thing I'm seeing here, program analyst in Chicago. So let's go back to LinkedIn. And basically, we're going to do a similar thing. So let's go back to the right one. We're going to clear all the filters. And then program analyst. Again, searching for people. And again, we're going to go back to filters. So the first filter that we want to do is locations. And so this is going to tell you everyone who has that title in their profile and are currently in Chicago. And so the reason why this is super useful is because then you'll be able to see in the greater Chicago area who has hired program analysts. So we've got the US Department of Labor, we've got EPA, we got some more US Department of Labor, Mathematica Policy Research. So if you know what you want to do and you want to get an idea of where you can do that work, then this is how you can, again, figure out what organizations have hired that job title. Now, and you might not, program analyst, you might want to put in program officer, and sometimes LinkedIn will actually suggest program manager, business analyst, all of that. But again, this gives you probably ideas that you like. Children's Home and Aid, I don't know what that is, but they're hiring a program analyst. And not only are you then finding organizations, but then you're seeing who that person is who works there. And so if working at Children's Home and Aid is something that sounds really interesting to you, then you're going to want to reach out to Angela and see if she might be up for a conversation. And so this gives you 83,000 results. If you want to narrow it even further, then my biggest suggestion is not to do what I did, but to go back to Chicago, apply, and then go to all filters. And again, we put in Peace Corps. And so sometimes when you put in that Peace Corps filter, it'll narrow it too much, and there might not be any results or just 4 or 5. But here, again, there's 150 RPCVs, most likely, in Chicago who are program analysts. And so these are the people that you are going to want to reach out to first. All right, so one last thing that I want to show you. So let's go back to the slideshow. And so this I want for the people who know what organization you want to work for. So I did see some people already put like Department of State. So give me a job title. I feel like this is Mad Libs. Okay. Noun, job title, location, and your alma mater. So where you graduated. So, okay, Eckerd. And where, Sam, do you want to find a job? In Quebec, okay. Sorry, I had a teacher that was really fastidious about saying Quebec instead of Quebec, and so that's what I've done. All right, Department of Education, Dartmouth College. Okay, so let us see. Project Manager, Switzerland, University of Texas at San Antonio. So, okay, I am going to do something that gives us the best results. So it might not be what you're, exactly your case, but I hope that this will be helpful. And so what we're gonna do is Department of Education, Washington, D.C. at Dartmouth. And so we're going back to LinkedIn. And what we're doing is now starting at Dartmouth. Am I spelling that right? No. There we go. Okay, so this is the alumni feature that I love oh so very much. Why does my messages keep popping up? Okay, so you go to your school, you click on alumni. Now the same thing also happens with organizations if you click on people, but here's just the thing that I think is really cool about this alumni filter is that you get to see where they live, where they work, what they do, what they studied, and you can filter by all of these. And so let's look at the 2,700 who are living and or working in the Washington, D.C. area. And so here then you see where they're working. And so if you're not seeing exactly what you're looking for, Department of Education. And so then we've got 345 alumni who have Department of Education in their LinkedIn profile somewhere. And so here are the 5 people who are actually working there. So again, this helps you to get very, very narrowly focused on people who might be, who can, once you're applying to jobs, then you can, and focusing on Department of Education, then you can reach out to Lauren or Jill or Brittany and ask them for some ideas about how you can strengthen your application or your resume. And so, or if you develop a rapport with them, then you can ask them some questions about, so would you feel comfortable recommending me or introducing me to the hiring manager? So all of these things are really possible. And by starting building your network, no matter where you're at. So if you're still trying to figure out what you want to do, it's still really useful to reach out to people, because if you talk to Brittany and then later realize, oh, Department of Education, this is where I want to work, you already have that rapport, you already have that connection. Okay, I think one other thing before we go back to the slideshow, I did want to just talk briefly about my career design studio. And so this is the program so this is something that I developed and that I use with my clients. And as a part of the Global Reentry Membership Program at MPCA, you get 3 free months of this. And it has a ton of information. Like I said, I've gone through this in detail, but really quickly, what it allows you to do is basically design and build your career. So you start with who you are, raw materials, what you want out of life, and then you explore your different options. Then you actually start designing your career, and by putting all the pieces together. And then it also helps you develop the career creation tools, resume, cover letter, and salary negotiation and informational interviews. So it really is a very complete program. And basically what you're doing as you're going through this, you're also building a virtual mosaic as you're building your career. So that's what this image represents here. So what I want to talk are the activities in my career design studio that can help you with the networking components. And like I said, it uses slightly different language, but let's talk about the first thing that helps you do is to identify the jobs that might be a good fit for you. And so as you do some of that self-discovery and reflection, then you prioritize what's important to you, and then you'll come up with a list. And, I've seen anything from like 3 to 50 different job titles. And so once you've got an idea of the types of things that are interesting to you, in the career design area, there's an activity called my gap analysis. And what this allows you to do is to think through each of these job titles. Now, when I went through this, since I already know what I want to do, I did a pretty sloppy job of this. And what I mean by that is I put in tests for everything instead of actual job requirements that I have. But what this allows you to do is take a look at a job description for a teacher, right? And then you can say, this is what I have. This is what I need. These are some ways that I can get those requirements. So it helps you to brainstorm. And then here's some questions that I have about this kind of job. So as you're doing your exploration, My Career Design Studio allows you to keep track of the different aspects that then allow you to do effective networking and research. Because then when you go to finding design partners, what that does is everything that you've done a gap analysis on, and you have questions, my lovely questions of test, then now you can start thinking through, all right, so who do I currently know who can answer some of those questions? And then when you're going onto LinkedIn and you're finding some people, then you can add that person's name, title, company, and LinkedIn link. And so again, this just gives you one place to keep track of all the different people, the different organizations that you might want to work for. And then we've got something, planning partner building conversations. So when you're actually meeting with somebody, you want to be very focused in the questions that you ask, and My Career Design Studio can help you to do that. So I just wanted to show you, My Career Design Studio was built to kind of walk you through step by step. But if you're in the networking phase, then you can also go to those activities that are most relevant to you. Okay, so I'm gonna go back, and we're almost finished. I do tend to get going.
About 12 minutes out.
Okay, thank you. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about, and again, this is also in My Career Design Studio under My Career Creation Tools. So when you have identified someone that you want to talk to, how do you approach them? And so basically, the best way to get someone's attention is to keep things very short and to the point. And so having, 100 words or less, you're not, again, asking for a job, you're asking for information. You want to put in your connection. So if you're, if you both went to Dartmouth or you're both RPCVs, mention that. And then what I mean by generalize your interest, it is, I'm interested in learning more about the Department of Education. Do you have, 10 or 15 minutes to talk to me? And then the last bullet point, maintain control of the follow-up. That means that you'll say that I understand that this is a really busy time, and so if I don't hear back from you, I'll be back in touch next week and see if that might be a better time for us to connect. So actually, I'm like thinking about that as I'm saying that. You don't necessarily have to put that in your email, but you want to be planning on if someone doesn't respond to you. You don't want to spam them, you don't want to harass them, but you do want to follow up because your email might have gone into a folder, or they might just be inundated. And so basically, again, My Career Design Studio walks you through kind of how to plan and strategize your follow-up so that you basically, as you are reaching out to people, you can know exactly what you're doing and when. And that takes away a lot of the fear and a lot of the confusion with this process. As you can see, there's a lot of moving pieces here. There's a lot of steps. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, I completely understand. When I think about networking, I often get really overwhelmed with it too. But if you realize that you can just go through it just one step at a time, you don't have to do everything all at once, then hopefully that helps. And again, hopefully that framing of you're not asking for a favor as much as you're building community and making connections with like-minded people, hopefully that'll help as well. Okay, so At this point, I want to give you a chance to ask any questions that you have. And so if anything, if you want me to show you something else again, I'm happy to do that. If you want more explanation on anything, and Jody, I'm gonna ask for you to kind of be the guide here. And so,
Sure.
yes. So is there any questions that have come up that would be helpful for me to answer?
There's several questions that have come up. One is, do you have a good, positive template for those informational approaches?
Yes. Yes, I do. Okay, so let me go back to my career design studio. And so if you go to my career creation tools and then my approach to potential partners. So the actual activity is very basic, but there is this little instructions button that gives you a whole lot of information. And so so the email should be blah, 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 all of that's here. So here's a couple of examples. So my name is blah, 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 first year, blah, 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 found your information on LinkedIn. If you have 20 minutes in the next couple of weeks, I'd like to ask you about your experience with name of company. I'm trying to learn more about the type of careers. Would appreciate any insights that you have. This is the basic template. And honestly, it doesn't need to be much more than this, except, if you're not a first year student, you don't want to put that in there. But so mentioning your Peace Corps connection or your alumni connection, this is what you do it, where you do it. And again, this may be a busy time for you. I'll try reach you next week to see if that's more convenient. So that's a way to kind of keep control of the follow-up. And so again, if I read your blog post on your site and I liked blah, blah, blah. Do you have some spare time to discuss it further? So then that lets them know what you have in common, that you are interested in the same thing that Jamie's interested in. And there should be a space here, because when you're ready, email your potential partners is not what you're going to email to this person. But basically this tells you, keep track of the dates in your emails in the notes section. And actually 40% response rate to your emails, that's actually pretty high. In general, I would expect 25% response rate. At this time, the response rate is actually higher because people, like I said, don't have as much to do, possibly, and want to feel like they're making a positive contribution. So that means you want to make sure that you don't just reach out to one person. And if they don't respond back, then you're like, networking doesn't work or LinkedIn doesn't work. I recommend that you start by reaching out to 10 different people, maybe over a couple of days. And that way you've got a much better chance of connecting with someone who wants to help you. One other thing I want to say about this is that what you're looking for is those people who like to help. So they're what I call advocates, and they're people that love making connections, that giving advice, that makes them happy. And the only way you can find those people is to ask for their advice. And if they respond, they're generally going to be an advocate. And if they don't respond, then either your email got lost or that person isn't going to be the type of person that goes out of their way for you. And so when you find your advocate, then it's a win-win, because that's the person that is really going to, connect you to new people, give you new ideas, give you feedback on your resume, all of that kind of stuff. And they're going to be happy doing it. And so many times I know that I kept myself from asking for help because I thought I was going to be a bother. And what's really important to remember is that, yeah, that's some people would consider you to be a bother, but not everybody. And those are the people you want to make a connection with. The only way you can find them is to ask. And the people that don't respond, you weren't really a bother because it's pretty easy to ignore an email. So I know that sounded a little cynical at the end, but again, this is a treasure hunt in a way. So you're looking for people who want to help you. Okay, anything else?
Yes, two people brought up the question about can we access Career Design Studio even if we're not a recently returned RPCV?
So my understanding, and Jody, correct me if I'm wrong, that the Global Reentry Program is kind of available for anyone, any
Yep.
RPCV right now.
Exactly. Many people think that it's just for the evacuees. It's actually for RPCVs in general. So it's never too late to come through to get, take advantage of the services that we offer. So it's for everyone. And my understanding, you answer actually, Rhonda, in terms of my career studio, I think that's available. The 3-month free trial is available to all RPCVs then, basically.
Yeah,
right?
it's for every global
Right.
return membership. So if
And
you're
that's free. Global Reentry
yeah,
Program with Peace Corps is absolutely free. You just you go to the homepage of peacecorpsconnect.org. If you haven't already joined, many of you would have found out about it through this. But on the homepage, there's the Global Reentry Learn More, and you click on that. And by registering for that, it's totally free. It gets you access to, all of the workshops, webinars, eventually in person, some different, fun things as well that we'll be doing. So I would definitely urge you to take advantage of that and any of the other programming. I have an event I'll be doing tomorrow night on getting started in the job search. And so probably cross-referencing a little bit of what Rhonda talks about, but a lot more in addition to that. And really it'll be very heavy on discussion and Q&A too. So that's that.
yeah.
We probably have time for maybe 2 more questions. In looking, there was somebody who asked, and where did I lose it here? Let's see. There were a lot of good comments in here. That was great. Can you find someone? Someone asked, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Chizoba, maybe. Can you find one's email address on LinkedIn, or is this a message that you can send out as a connection invitation?
What a great question. And so basically, here's my recommendation. The best way of approaching someone that you don't know so that they'll probably see it is through email. And so sometimes you can find that on LinkedIn, and let me share my screen again. But the other thing that I recommend that you do is first just Google their name and maybe their company and the word email. And if it is in, company website or something like that, then you might be able to find it there. Sometimes people will, under their contact info, sometimes they'll put their email there. Not all, Jill didn't, but so look at their contact info. And then if it's not there, then put a name, what they do, email. And if you can't find it that way, then you do a connection request. And so that's basically kind of in order of effectiveness. Some people are great on LinkedIn and they will respond within 2 minutes. Other people, it goes into like their social media tab on Gmail and they'll be on LinkedIn once a year. So,
yeah, and it may depend on where they are in their own job search or trying to connect. Like a lot of times if they're set in a career, they may hardly check LinkedIn. And so it doesn't mean that they are being rude. It's just they don't really check it. So.
Right. And it also doesn't mean that they don't want to connect with you and they don't want to be helpful. And so, yeah, that's the direct email is the best way to go. Otherwise, there's other options for you.
Rhonda, we do have another question I think is such a good question that I'm going to go ahead and ask it. It is 4 o'clock. We certainly honor if people do need to drop off. We won't be offended. You may have other things going on, but this is really good dialogue. And I think there's a very good question on here from Piper. And she says, this is a LinkedIn question. Would you recommend asking people you have worked with in the past to write you a recommendation on your LinkedIn profile? I recently heard that interviewers and recruiters like to see them and take them into consideration, but I'm not sure how accurate this is or if it's advisable.
So I'm of 2 different minds, and Jody, I'm going to ask you to chime in as well. And I think that in some ways, getting recommendations and references on LinkedIn is a really great way to just kind of keep everything in one place. And then, then you can put LinkedIn on your resume. They can click on that and take a look at your references. And so in general, I think that if you feel comfortable, and there's a process, like when I ask for recommendations, I'll often do a draft for them so that they know what I'm looking for them to emphasize. Because often they will be like, oh she was like the best with spreadsheets, and you don't want to touch a spreadsheet again in your life. And so you want to make sure that and they appreciate the guidance as well, so they don't have to start from nothing. So I do think that it's useful. I think that it's also not something that I would stay up late fretting about. And the reason why that's going to be further down on the list of what's important to a hiring manager, and what's higher up is there someone in the organization who can vouch for this person? So networking is more important than almost anything else that I can think of, including a good resume. And I say that as like a certified resume writer, but the reason why I say that is because hiring is expensive and labor intensive, and it's really ineffective. Like hiring someone just looking at a resume, just looking at a LinkedIn profile, is really hard to really gauge the nature. Is this person going to be a good fit? A recommendation from a person who works at that organization can overcome a lot of limitations. Let's put it that way. And so, so if you're trying to figure out, do I want to ask this person for a reference, or do I want to talk to someone in a company that I'm interested in? I want you to spend your time talking to someone in a company that you're interested in. And if you don't know of anybody else to reach out to, or you're done with networking for the day or for the week, then absolutely reach out for a reference. So really my goal is for you to spend your time and your energy, because this is tough stuff. Finding work is draining and demoralizing. So I want you to be as strategic as possible. And so recruiters that are only using LinkedIn, they're going to be looking for that. I think most RPCVs, or many RPCVs, are looking for jobs that are much more network based, and that who you know is more important than what's on your LinkedIn profile. So I don't want to discourage you from getting references. There's a lot of really good components to that. But if you're spending most of your time on that and not talking to people, that's not going to help you get a job.
And when you're getting references on LinkedIn, just to add on to what Rhonda was saying, you're not putting their name and their contact information, right? It's getting those references of, some quote from them where they say what a great worker you were and your project management skills were excellent, whatever. And it's a quote, right? And then they have their name usually, and maybe it's, their business or whatever they want to include. So it's not the same as like submitting references. And in your job search, you will need to submit references. So it's a great idea in advance to reach out to folks, just get their general okay, if they'd be willing to serve as a reference. And then the thing that I always say to people is, when it gets to the stage of your references, it's after you've submitted, they've looked at your resume, they've decided they want to interview you. Usually it's after that, like, okay, we want to go ahead with this person, or we're torn between these two people. Let's look at their references. They usually will look at your references regardless. So you want to give them, when they ask you for your references, you give them a nice sheet, nice page where, and you email it, whatever, with their names, their job titles, their relation to you, like where you worked with them, if they were a supervisor, that kind of thing. And then have them, contact them, but you can reach out in advance and let that person know, hey, I'm at the final stages in a job for a project manager position. I'm really excited about it. They said they asked for my references. So I just wanted to get you a copy of the job description and a copy of my resume that I'd submitted to them, just to help you or just even the portion that speaks to when they worked for you, because they're going to do a much better job talking about you from 5 years ago, when they can say, because they'll say questions like, when did they work for you? Well, let's see. I guess that's not as impressive as, oh yes, she was here from 2012 to 2017. She did a great job. It just makes you sound much better. So just to plug that in, to add to Rhonda's. And at this point, Rhonda, I want to ask you, because I want to respect your time as well. You're so kindly giving us of your time. It is 4:06 at this point. I don't know if you have a few minutes to stick around, or if you need to go, or what you want to wrap up on. Please take it away and do what you need to do, and then we'll end it there.
Excellent. Yeah, I just want to go back to my last slide really quick, just to tell you one other thing that I'm offering as an add-on to this. And so we talked about my Career Design Studio as a part of the Global Reentry membership. And Jody, is there any way that we can put a link to that in the chat?
Just
box?
Copy this link.
Not this link, but for the Global
the link
Reentry
to
membership.
my Career Design Studio. Yes, let me the global membership. Yes, I will put the global membership link in here in just a moment. Thanks.
Also, everyone who's registered. So if you haven't actually registered for this webinar, please do that, because then we'll send you a follow-up email with links to everything, including my Career Design Studio, including the Global Reentry membership, and also my Facebook group. So I have a Facebook group that is really focused on helping people to use my Career Design Studio to find their work. So facebook.com/group/my Career Design Studio. And starting, I think it's on Saturday, I'm going to be doing a 7-day challenge that's focused on networking and informational interviews. And so every single day we'll be breaking down a part of this presentation, and so that you're comfortable with reaching out to people. And so part of that is going to be, let me just flip back here, answering these questions. What do you need to know? What do people need to know about you? So again, I load up my webinars with a ton of information, and it can get really overwhelming. I totally understand that. I really want you to be able to get off of this and to be able to put this into action and to get support while you're doing that. So if that is something that you would like to do, if you would like to have, just these bite-sized daily goals that set you up for networking and informational interviewing, please join my Career Design Studio Facebook group, and you will get that. And then basically every day you'll get a little kind of a small action step to kind of keep your motivation up, to help you plan for your week. So for some people, just having some sort of outside accountability or support is super useful. If you're one of those people, please sign up. And again, that information will come into your email, and as long as you have actually registered for this event. And so that's pretty much what I wanted to share. Again, I am very, very invested in all of you finding work that is meaningful, rich, and rewarding for you. And so these are the different ways that I'm working with the NPCA so that I can provide that information and that support. And so I've got another 5 minutes. If there's anything else that people would like to talk about, I'd be happy to.
In the chat box, we do have somebody who said they registered for the interactive email series and the Facebook group, but I'm unsure on where I sign up separately for the portal portion that you showed in the webinar.
Yes. Okay. So, so with the interactive email series, so that's a really good point. That is, I think, your second or third email, you'll get access to my Career Design Studio. And so the email series is basically kind of a self-coaching process. So it doesn't start out with you signing up to my Career Design Studio. It starts a little slowly to lay a foundation. And so again, you don't get overwhelmed and that you know how to keep your motivation up. So do the first couple of steps in the interactive email series, and that'll give you access to my Career Design Studio. And so I think that's a really good question. Thank you so much for asking that. Yep. And I'm just seeing Monica's email about, or chat about, reaching out to a second degree person. So again, I think this is a really great question. And I generally am a proponent of cutting out the middleman, the middle person, because sometimes first degree connections actually don't know each other very well. And so if you ask for an introduction, they might not feel comfortable doing that. So my recommendation really is to identify the person you want to talk to, find their email, and approach them directly. Now, if you know somebody is really close to that person, absolutely ask for an introduction. But that is not, don't feel stymied if you don't have a connection or if that person is being unresponsive. The more control you put in somebody else's hands, the less control you have yourself. And so if you can reach out to someone directly, that's my first recommendation. Again, if it's someone who's like really high up in an organization and you know someone who could really smooth that path, then I think that's helpful, but you don't need that. I hope that's helpful. Okay, and so so I'm seeing something from Matt. If any older seasoned RPCVs can get in touch with me directly one-on-one. So I would love to talk to you if that makes sense. And Jody, I don't know if you want to announce anything about that.
I actually did respond to him and say that he's welcome to, email me or careers. And certainly, I wanted to talk to you a little more about that in terms of you directly, but I think there's more exciting news to come. So yes, check with me if you'd like to, get in touch with Rhonda as well.
Yes, perfect. So, so basically, like I said, I'm definitely, here for you, and for now, connect with Jody and she'll talk more about the process of working with me directly.
We are in the process of developing a mentoring program as well to connect you with other RPCVs and or some, career, counselors, coaches that have, are interested in helping in this way. So we're trying to build that part up, and there's a lot of response already from our initial going out to some of the RPCVs that they really want to help. So there should be a lot of people that can help in these ways.
Absolutely.
Thanks. So I think at this point, because I know, unless you have something else, if you want to say something in the end here, Rhonda, if there's a few last points that you need to make, otherwise I really want to thank you for taking the time to be with us. It's always great. And you did a great job. Really good information. So I hope people really enjoyed it. And just as a reminder, we will be, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is my first one that I'm participating in. I'm a brand new employee with NPCA, but I think that they send out the link to the recording to everyone who registered for this. And I think the link to the chat box perhaps, but you can also save the chat box very easily, the chat conversation yourself. If you click like on the conversations and you go to the bottom or the 3 dots or whatever, and it'll say save chat, like the first one usually that comes up. And if you save that, it'll save it onto your device, generally under your Zoom file or folder or something. So
and in that email will also be a link to my Facebook group and my personal email address. So again, if you want to work with me directly or talk to me directly, counterintuitively go through Jody. But if you have a question about my career design studio and that kind of thing, please feel free to email me anything that I wasn't able to cover. So I'm just, thank you guys so much for your participation. And I just, I'm rooting for all of you, and I'm just excited to be able to share what I know, and I hope that it's helpful. And the other thing is that I do a monthly webinar, and I had a plan for the whole year. That plan has shifted. So I think Jody and I are going to be talking about what we want to focus on next month. So again, in the follow-up email, you will get a link to an evaluation. We really encourage you to fill that out. That gives you the opportunity to suggest other topics. And so we do take that into consideration, and really, we're going to be focusing on what's most relevant for the job search in this day and age. And so if there's anything where you're really feeling stuck or overwhelmed, let us know, and we'll come up with something.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. And thanks for everyone who has taken the time to be here. I just noticed Alicia Crane is on this call, who I remember from my days working at Peace Corps. So hello to you. And signing off at this point. Thank you everyone so very much, and have a great rest of the day. And we'll look forward to seeing you at our different events, including Fridays. Hey, camera. So let us know if you're interested in the other ones as well. The NPCA calendar again is peacecorpsconnect.org/events, and you can see all of what we have coming up, and we hope to see you at one of those. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Rhonda, so much.
Thank you, Jody. Yes, it was a pleasure working with you today.
As always, you take care.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. See you later.